What's up guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about makeup mistakes to avoid. These are commonly made mistakes that I see all the time. Maybe I went a little overboard and made this look a little too dramatic, but I think it's going to help you understand the difference between this side and this side. So hopefully you enjoy this video. It's basically like a do's and don'ts and what to do to kind of avoid looking like this. Be mindful that this is just my opinion, you know, the whole disclaimer, makeup is fun, you do whatever you want to do. If you want to play with makeup in a way that I don't think you should, you totally still should. But anyways, that made no sense, but I hope you subscribe to my channel so you can see more of my nonsense here on my channel. For the most part, I'm serious, I promise. I just had like way too much coffee today. But anyways, I love you guys. Let's get started. You guys, I have 3 pages of notes because I wanted to make sure that this video is as informative as it can be for you. So hopefully you appreciate that. So the first thing you want to make sure is that your skin is nice and prepped. So this side of my face has no moisturizer, no primer, and then this side of my face has a little bit of moisturizer and a little bit of primer. I am going to have a blog post on this topic, so I will have the link down in the description box. So if you click on that, what you're gonna find is a lot of recommendations for, you know, moisturizers and primers for dry skin, oily skin, what to do, what not to do, kind of listed for you. So it might be easier that way. So yeah, check the description box for the link. I'm gonna talk about how to match your foundation. So the right way to match a foundation is to your overall body versus your face or your neck. Most people match their foundation to their neck, and that is probably one of the worst mistakes you can make, just because most of the time your neck is going to be lighter than the rest of your body. So you're basically making your face look pale as opposed to matching it to the rest of your body. So what I like to do is grab a foundation, and it can be a little bit lighter than your body if that's your preference. It doesn't have to be that dark if you are one that likes to tan a lot. So what I'm going to do is apply a foundation that I've matched to my neck. So as you can see, this looks very pale, and it also doesn't look that hydrated because obviously I had no moisturizer on before I applied the foundation. And that's gonna be the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation. So what I'm gonna do is match this side of my skin more to my body. And you definitely wanna cover your ears as well. So a quick tip when it comes to finding the perfect foundation for you is not only to find the right color, but also the right coverage and fit for your skin type. So if you have oily skin, make sure to find a foundation that's oil-free, that's sort of mattifying. If you've got really, really dry skin, then find foundations that are very radiant. Avoid matte foundation. We're gonna move on to concealer. So this is a really, really light concealer, and I'm just gonna directly apply this under my eyes. And although I have a really light foundation on, as you can see, the difference is pretty big. Whereas on this side, I'm gonna go ahead and use a concealer that's about 2 shades lighter than this, and this is gonna be the Born This Way concealer. So on this side, I'm going to go ahead and use my same kabuki brush to blend it in place. And then on this side, I'm just going to use my fingers, because that's another thing I notice a lot of people doing is they'll use their fingers to apply their foundation and their concealer. And sometimes that works. I mean, honestly, it depends on how well you blend it. But sometimes it could look very, very pasty and patchy. So especially for concealers, you really have to be careful. So as you can see, it's not doing a great job blending it. So this side, I'm just gonna go ahead and properly blend this in place using my kabuki brush. And as you can see, I'm also applying this concealer on my eyelids because this is going to basically prime it for me. So then we're gonna go ahead and set this makeup in place. So what you do wanna do is set everything with a translucent powder. What I noticed, and this is actually a big thing for me, I did a whole dedicated blog post explaining the difference between setting powder, translucent powder. I'll link it down below so you guys can see really the difference, because there are so many different types of powders. What you don't wanna do is use just a regular compact powder to set your makeup in place, because what you're doing is basically adding coverage. So this is a compact powder. This one's by Pure. It's great on its own. It's a foundation. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use this under my eyes and kind of all over my face. If you don't want to add more coverage, you want to use a translucent powder. My favorite one, I've talked about it a million times, is the Laura Mercier translucent powder. It is just so good. It doesn't add coverage. It really sets your makeup in place and it doesn't let you crease throughout the day, you know? So the way I like to set this in place is using a dry beauty blender and apply this directly under my eyes and then a little bit on top. And then wherever I have pores, because this pretty much helps kind of blur out the pores a little bit. So once that's there, you want to grab a fluffy brush after about a minute or so and kind of wipe it away. All right, moving on to contouring. So the thing that you want to remember is contouring is supposed to really accentuate your features, really bring your features out, right? Taupey bronzers do much better than the really warm bronzers. So warm bronzers are really nice to give yourself a really beautiful sun-kissed glow, but they're not nice to contour and really carve out the cheekbones. So what you don't want to do is use a product kind of like this. This is by MAC. It is their mineralized skin finish, and this one is in dark. And as you can see, it's beautiful. I think this as an overall kind of bronzer would be beautiful, but this isn't meant to be used for contouring. Obviously, you want to make sure that you blend. Even when you're trying to create a really pretty sort of harsh contour, you still need to blend those harsh edges. So it's very important to apply and blend it at the same time. So I'm just gonna leave this like this because I have seen this, and you know you have too. The proper color to contour with is more of a taupe undertone. So as you can see, the difference is pretty big. This one is yellow, this one has more of a taupe undertone. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a Sigma brush, and this one is F05. And I'm just gonna start kind of where my ear starts, and I've talked about this like years ago when I first started YouTube, but the best way to contour is to follow this guideline, and you basically want to just do that. So that's the proper way to do it. So as you can see, I'm applying it, and then I like to blend upward. So this is really getting rid of that harsh line. So I also like to apply the bronzer on my jawline. So this really helps slim it down. Then I like to apply a little bit of that on my forehead. When it comes to contouring your nose, I mean, there's like so many things that go into it. So what you want to remember is that lighter colors bring things out because they highlight them, and then darker colors push things in. So my nose is pretty straight. I like to just contour the sides, kind of like a typical way of doing it, and then I like to apply the light on the center, but then right over here on the tip I like to put the bronzer again, because this lifts, you know, when you put the light over here and the dark over here, it pretty much lifts the nose, so you're kind of curving it. So what you don't want to do is just contour for the sake of contouring and put the bronzer really wide out here, because it's just going to make your nose look really wide. Moving on to highlighters, and this is so hard because I feel like everyone is so different. I personally like a very fine shimmer so that when you apply it, it looks like you've got a really nice glow on. Whereas when you use harsh highlighters that have a lot of frost in them, it's just gonna look tacky in my opinion. Again, that's just my opinion. So I like to use highlighters that, like I said, are very strong, but when you swatch it, you don't necessarily see chunks of glitter coming through. You know what I mean? So this one is the Bobbi Brown highlighter in Pink Glow, and it's one of my favorites. It's so beautiful. My favorite brush to highlight with is going to be the tapered highlight brush F35 by Sigma. And I'm just gonna apply this on the high points of my cheeks. And as you can see, it's there. It's obvious that I've got highlighter on, but it's also so subtle and like in the most youthful way, you know? So then I like to apply this also on the brow bone, the brow bone, and then take it up a little bit to like right above my eyes. So now I'm going to apply a little bit on the tip of my nose because I do want this to be highlighted and kind of lifted, and then just a little bit on the center, but leaving that middle part sort of bare. Okay, lastly, you want to apply a little bit of this on the Cupid's bow to highlight that area. Let's talk about blushes before we move on to the eyes. So one thing to remember is that if you're, if you've got the most beautiful skin, you have no pores, you can really do whatever you want with your blush. You can have it be frosty, you can have it be glittery, but most people I find have pores around this area. And so whenever you apply a very frosty blush on the apples of your cheeks, you basically are accentuating your pores. Make sure to put a matte blush on the apples of your cheeks with a fluffy brush. And I'm gonna apply it on the apples of my cheeks. And then as I'm applying it, I'm gonna take it up. So I'm blending it upwards. Okay, completely forgot to show you guys what not to do when it comes to highlighters on this side. So I've got my blush on this side, but we're gonna just kind of switch up the order a little bit here. But I'm just gonna show you guys what this might look like when it's not blended right or when it's got too much shimmer. I feel like it depends, if this is your taste, go for it. I mean, you are glowing beautifully. So this one over here has a lot of highlight, not enough blending, and then this over here has highlight, but it's not like overpowering and it's well blended. So when it comes to your blush, definitely avoid shimmers like I said because it's going to accentuate your pores. But if you don't have pores, then obviously play with as much shimmer as you want. So I'm going to go in with this color over here. This one is by Becca Cosmetics, and this is their Luminous Blush. It is so frosty, like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to blend this out a little. The placement's off. Everything's just not good. Not good. Moving on to brows. So one thing to remember when it comes to picking the right color is that if you're a brunette, I suggest choosing a shade that's 2 shades lighter than your hair color because it's going to give you more of a soft finish. And then if you're a blonde, then you want to do the opposite and choose a shade that's 2 shades darker than your hair color. So on this side, I'm going to go ahead and use a pencil. And I like to start from the center always and make small strokes. And then make my arch how I want it. And then gradually work my way to the bottom. Then you want to go ahead and drag this to the front. Then I like to brush the hair upwards and start working on the bottom. So this part I like to just flick the brush up, or not the brush, but the pencil up. And this is going to make it look like I've got real like hair strokes. So this one is a gel one, so this is what you don't want to do. It's not only gel, but it's also very dark. So as you can see, we don't like this side. It's just too harsh. I didn't even try to make it bad. Like this is my eyebrow shape, as you can see. Moving on to the eyes. So first you want to remember to prime your eyelids before using an eyeshadow. So I always talk about this. I personally like priming my eyelids using a concealer, just like I've already done, because I feel like it does a really good job. It holds my eyeshadow. Now, of course, if you've got really, really oily lids, then you might want to use an actual primer. But if you've got normal skin, just a concealer will do the job. Use any palette that you want. I just wanted to play with neutrals just to make it more of an everyday do's and don'ts, mistakes type of video. So I went in with this palette over here. This is the Marc Jacobs one. Looks like this. So what you want to do first is start with your crease. I personally recommend all matte warm tone colors on the crease because it just does a really beautiful job creating a very pretty transitional color. And I'm gonna apply this on my crease. And I just like to blend this until I don't see any harsh edges. So blend, 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 and then apply as much as you want. For this eye, what you don't want to do is apply a crease color that's got tons of shimmer in it. So I'm going to pick up the gold over here and then mix it a little bit with this guy over here. And with a flat brush this time, not a blending brush, I'm just going to apply this on the crease. But you see how important brushes are? I mean, it depends on the type of brush you're using, really. Now, I will tell you the best way to use shimmery shades is on the lid. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, those 2 colors. So I'm going to pick up the gold, mix a little bit with this guy over here. And then I'm going to apply this directly on my eyelids. I'm going to apply this on the entire eyelids. This is kind of looking like everything is one. big ol' mess. I'm gonna also darken this side. So again, I want the colors to sort of match. So I'm just gonna darken the outer corners because that's what I think the darkness should always go. So I'm applying it with the same flat brush on the outer corners. And then I'm gonna pick up that same fluffy brush, and now we're gonna blend this guy. So you're not gonna see any harsh edges, you're gonna see darkness, but it's gonna be well blended. You never really wanna take it all the way to the inner corners because the inner corners look really pretty when they're nice and highlighted. So as you can see, this is really soft and still smoky eye, but not like frosty, crazy like this one. It's like blended, there's transition, there's gold, there's dark. It's just all so pretty. So kind of the same concept goes for your bottom lash line. Everything should be nice and blended. And I personally prefer all matte colors on the bottom lash line. And I'm going to just pop this on the outer corners and then gradually blend it in. And by the time I get to the inner corners, the pigment is already kind of gone because the outer corners has more of the definition. What you don't want to do is just create a line. So I'm going to pick up that same brown and I'm going to create a line. Next, we're going to talk about eyeliners. So what you want to do is use eyeliners that you're comfortable with. So obviously, majority of the people are more comfortable with pencils or gel liners. Less people are comfortable with liquid eyeliners. You're going to use an angled brush. So I like to start from the center of my eye, and then I like to make small strokes. Okay, I don't just do one big cat eye. No, you want to work for it. So you want to start very, very slow from the middle and then small strokes to the outer corners. And you always want to keep your eyes open. You never want to do this, you know? You don't really see the exact placement of where you want it. So small strokes, and then every now and then take a moment, look at yourself, make sure you're doing it right. So once you get to the outer corners, think about how you want your cat eye to be. I'm going to go with like something a little bit more softer today. So what I'm going to do is extend my cat eye from my outer corner, but kind of like the bottom lash line, and then extend it straight from the tip of the brush. You see this brush? You see how pointy that tip is? You're going to use that tip and you are going to extend it more in this kind of angle where your eyebrow is ending. You see, like if I were to drag this, it would go towards my brow, but we're not going to do that. So then once you've got that, then you want to connect the top to that. So flip your brush again, connect the top to the bottom. Bring this all the way to the inner corners. And if you make a mistake, you just make your line just a little bit thicker. So then on this side, what you don't want to do is use a liquid liner, like I said, unless you are super comfortable with it. Obviously, there are millions of girls out there who are probably more comfortable using a liquid liner than a gel liner. It just depends on what your comfort level is. But most people, I would say, are having a hard time with their liquid liners. So I'm going to close my eyes and then just drag this. Next, before you apply mascara, make sure to lift your lashes. So curl them really well because curling your lashes really lifts your eye open. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Tarte curler and I'm going to curl this side. So already I feel like this eye just feels more lifted. Whereas this one, I'm just going to apply it without curling my lashes. So far, this is what we have. Okay, let's talk about lashes because a lot of people like lashes right now. I personally love them. I think it makes such a big difference when you apply lashes. So one tip I have for you guys is to avoid getting lashes that have a really thick band because even as a professional, you find it so hard to use those. I mean, they're so thick. Not only are they kind of uncomfortable to wear all day, but they're just also very difficult to get on. So what you do want to get is a lash that has a very thin band because it's just gonna be so much easier to work with. So I'll give you guys an example. Look how thick the band is. I mean, this is just beautiful, but it's gonna be a disaster to put this on. Look at this one. It's still very full, but you see how thin the band is? I mean, this is gonna be so much easier and so much more comfortable to wear. And you also want to make sure that your glue is tacky before you start using it. So don't just apply it and right off the bat take it to your lashes, because it's just not going to stick well. So make sure you give yourself a couple seconds for the glue to get really tacky. Lastly, we are going to do the lips and then we'll be done. So one thing you want to remember is when it comes to your lip liner, don't just drag the line. It's kind of the same concept as your cat eye. You want to make small strokes because that's going to make your lips look more naturally fuller. So I'm going to use this Bare Minerals lip liner, and this one is called Gen Nude. And I'm just going to start from the outer corners and make small strokes until I get to the middle. And then I'm also going to fill in my lips using the same liner. So what you don't want to do is drag the line. This side, you can very clearly see my natural lip line, whereas this side is a little bit harder to tell because, you know, I filled it in, I made small strokes. For my lipstick, I'm going to use Perline by, it's either Ciate or Chiate. I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments below because I'm always confused about that. I, again, like to make small strokes. And you see how it matches the lip liner color. So what you don't want to do is use a product that's a lot lighter or a lot darker, because then the contrast is a little too much. As you can see, the difference is too much, the contrast is too much, just doesn't look attractive because you could very well see the lip liner on the outside. So you definitely want to make sure that, again, your lip liner and your lipstick have about a 2-shade difference. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to share it with the world because I think the world would appreciate my tips, hopefully. I'll see you guys on Monday with a brand new video. Mwah. Bye!